aligned with the political musical chairs in Maharashtra. The focus has been on who has how much clout and the ability to grab the top seat. But what is the real job of any government? What are they actually voted for? That's the part, unfortunately, that does not get enough space. Now, one of the first decisions by the Eknath Shinde government has been to reverse the contentious Mumbai Metro car shed to Aarey colony. Now, Mumbaikars know Aarey well for the one place that doesn't seem like Mumbai. It's green, there are open spaces, and it's home to thousands of species of flora and fauna. In the battle between Uddhav and BJP, it has unfortunately become a pawn, a chess piece whose fate is being decided to prove a political point. Remember when Aditya Thackeray stood up for Aarey and protested the decision of a metro car shed towards the end of the last Sena BJP government? His party was very much part of the government then. It exposed the cracks in the alliance. In a sense, the Aarey issue has become symbolic of that crack. So it should come as no surprise, really, that the Shinde Fadnavis government decided to bring back the metro shed to Aarey immediately. Just like Uddhav Thackeray pushed it from Aarey to Kanjurmarg as one of his first decisions. But what exactly is the issue? There is no doubt that Mumbai needs better public transport. This gave birth to the long-standing metro project, which faced its own set of hurdles at every corner. The then Fadnavis government decided to build the car shed for the Kolaba-Bandra-Seeps project, that line at Aarey. The reasons were that it's close to the last station at Seeps and the land could be acquired relatively easily, which would reduce costs of the overall project. The problem? The environmental cost. Over 2,700 trees had to be cut. The biodiversity, which has varied species of butterflies, reptiles, even leopards, would be impacted. It's also home to 27 Adivasi villages. And herein began the battle. Environmental activists were up in arms. Celebrities lent their clout and the matter reached court. The Bombay High Court refused to stay the work at Aarey. The Supreme Court finally did order status quo. But in one night, the then Fadnavis government cut over 2,000 trees. That government's point of view has always been that 7 times the number of trees felled were planted elsewhere. In the Uddhav government era, the project was stayed and moved to Kanjurmarg, where it ran into legal disputes after the central government stepped in. So let me now break it down on what it means for you, especially if you live in Mumbai. 8 years later, there is no metro car shed, so no Metro 3 line. 2,000 plus trees have already been cut, and today we're back to square one. So the question is, should governments be treating infra projects like their playthings to dispose of as and when they please? And what about the original question of Aarey? But first, let's take a look at the political fight that broke out today.
आरेचा निर्णय त्यांनी जो बदलला त्याने मला खरंच दुःख झालेलं आहे. हा काही कोणाचा खासगी प्लॉट नाहीये. तिकडे कोणाही बिल्डरला आपण तो आंदण देत नाही आहोत. तिथे जे काही पर्यावरणासाठी आवश्यक असलेले जंगल आणि वनराई होती, जी एका रात्रीत झाडांची कत्तल झाली. मी मुख्यमंत्री झाल्यानंतर पहिला प्रथम त्या निर्णयाला स्टे दिला होता.
प्रलंबित जो प्रोजेक्ट है, जो प्रकल्प है, जो पिछले कई सालों से उसको आगे ले जाना चाहते हैं, जैसे जलयुक्त शिवार हो, कई मेट्रो के काम हो, जल संपदा विभाग के काम हो, जो किसानों के लिए एकदम भारी फायदेमंद हो सकते हैं. बड़े पैमाने पे जमीन इरिगेटेड हो सकती है. ये हमारा ये संकल्प है.
पिछली सरकार ने जहां कारशेड प्रपोज किया, वो जगह अभी भी डिस्प्यूट में है और वो जगह मिलने के बाद भी 4 साल कारशेड नहीं हो सकता. हमारी सरकार के समय आरे में जो जगह सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्लियर की थी, उस जगह पर 25% काम हो चुका है और बचा हुआ 75% काम वहां पर तुरंत किया जा सकता है. इसलिए मुंबईकरों के हित में तुरंत अगर मेट्रो शुरू करनी है तो कार शेड वही बनना चाहिए और इसलिए हमारा यही फैसला रहेगा कि कार शेड वही बने.
So these were all the reactions that have come in politically on this decision, and it was one of the first decisions. Now one can argue that the most important thing that needed to be decided by the Maharashtra government, but anyway, that's story for another day. I'm speaking now with Stalin Dayanand, founder of Vanashakti, and Karan Verma, author. Stalin Dayanand has been working for several years on this issue and has been at the forefront of that fight to save Aarey. Let me start with you, Mr. Dayanand, on your response to the decision made today. And you heard what the Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said, that if we want to start the metro quickly, this is really the only way to do it.
Now, this is a bit of a complete disappointment, and it is literally infuriating to see a Deputy Chief Minister, he was earlier the Chief Minister, to spread lies of this nature. The metro tunnelling work is still incomplete. To put the blame that the car shed is not complete and hence the line is being stuck is far from the truth. Now, if you see the same CM, the Deputy CM, Mr. Fadnavis, had allotted the Kanjurmarg plot for Metro 6. So it was available for Metro 6. It's only when Aarey was saved and the Metro 3 line was supposed to be adjusted along with Metro 6 that suddenly Mr. Fadnavis wakes up and says, no, this cannot be done at Kanjurmarg, and he creates a litigation. The earlier story was that a private party is asking for 5,000 crores, so Kanjurmarg cannot be used. But now we know that this so-called private party was the Union of India, who was just taking claim for that land. They never asked for 5,000 crores and there was no private party involved. So all this entire game which is being played out is only to help developers, and also the lie that 2,700 trees have been cut. We have the tree map and we can conclusively prove that not more than 300 trees were cut illegally at night. So the trees are very much there. The land is still very much a forest. There is documented wildlife on that place there. And there is no reason why you should destroy an ecologically important area when you have an option available. Not one, but there are 7 options. But we will talk about the one which is the most practical and easy, which is Kanjurmarg. There was no attempt made to stall any work at Kanjurmarg. It's only when the Aarey car shed was supposed to be moved to Kanjurmarg that all hell broke loose, and suddenly the Union government woke up and stopped the work. Let us not forget that 141 hectares of land, which was a salt pan, is given to the municipal corporation for dumping garbage. And that time the ownership was never an issue. It's only when the car shed came there and just 30 hectares or 20 hectares of land was needed for the metro car shed that all hell has broken loose. So this deceit cannot go on forever. Let the truth come out before the people and let people judge for themselves.
No, but the point is that if Kanjurmarg was a good option, why didn't it happen all of this time? Like I said, 8 years later, as far as the people are concerned, the needle just hasn't moved. Karan Verma, if all of these reasons are there, to save Aarey, if Kanjurmarg is an option, doesn't this seem more like ego? It's an ego battle. That I now have the government, so I will do as I please. Shouldn't these decisions be made on facts?
Oh, absolutely. Tamanna, I'm so glad we are having this debate, and thanks for inviting me. Because as citizens, we need to judge an issue or form our impression based only facts and keeping the politics aside. I have the highest respect for Mr. Stalin, who has his convictions. But I'll present you some facts, and then probably I think we can make an informed choice then. Now, one way of looking at it is that this project is going to displace wildlife. It's going to cause the green cover to deplete. It's not going to be good for the environment. However, there is a flip side to it where it actually is development along with being good for the environment. I'll put some facts in front of you. And this is an independent audit done of the project, which was also published in the Swaraj magazine. This line alone, which is costing nearly 30,000 crores, will help save 2.5 lakh liters of fuel per day. That is around 550 crores per year. The reduction in fossil fuel, I'm coming to the environment issue itself. Fossil fuel consumption will be reduced by an incredible 6,800 tons per annum. It will help in the removal of 4,56,000 vehicles from Mumbai. Now, this is huge. So, on the other hand, the felling of 2,200 trees for the metro car shed will lead to the emission of 50,000, that is 50 tons of carbon annually. So here, anything should be judged.
One minute, Karan. Since you have quoted facts, and I'm so glad you've come on the show and you've quoted facts. You said this is an independent audit. What is the source and who is the author of this audit?
Look, these are independent audits done as the project report, and it's also endorsed by the Swaraj magazine.
They may have published it, but who has conducted the audit?
I'll come to you with the exact name of the audit.
Now, second thing is, your first 3 points seem to extol the virtues of metro as a transportation service, which would, of course, reduce emissions, etc.
Absolutely.
But that's not in dispute. The metro as a service and whether we should have a metro is not in dispute. The question is about the location of a car shed, which is where it's part of the whole infrastructural project, right? That's where those metro cars will actually go to rest, servicing, etc. And that needs to be fairly close to one of the sides of the line. So when you're giving me facts about how having a metro helps the environment, that's great, but that's not the issue in dispute, Karan. The issue in dispute is why Aarey?
So look, there are two viewpoints to it. Mr. Stalin believes that the new location, Kanjurmarg, is a suitable place where it can be done. However, there are contrarian views to that. As Mr. Devendra Fadnavis has said, it will take 6 years for the project to take off. And Aarey was a place that was greenlit by the Supreme Court and the BMC also initially. So this is something that is that can only be judged when you hit the ground running. But there are different reports which suggest that Aarey is actually a more suitable place for it. And plus, it has been stuck for 8 years now. And already we have had the felling of trees, whether it's 300 or 2,000, that again, one can only judge when one hits the ground. But this is a place which was initially finalized for it. And eventually it will help the environment. Eventually it will be a good project. Rather than causing a dispute, which is a more suitable place, let's get this project off, because at Aarey, it can happen right away. That's what
let me take the question. That's what Devendra Fadnavis, the Deputy Chief Minister, has said. Let me take that to you, Stalin Dayanand. Aarey, it can happen right away. Kanjurmarg will take a really long time. It's embroiled in a lot of issues. So if this can happen right away, why not? What's your response to that?
Now, 2 things. First of all, the virtues of metro. Metro does not reduce traffic anywhere. Look at across India, it has not taken cars off the road. So let that not argument be sustained. Secondly, Kanjurmarg needs a metro shed for the Metro 6 line, and it is already designated, allotted, and given for it. Now, Aarey, the work of merging the lines will take less than 3 months, and there is a detailed project drawing report which says that going to Kanjurmarg is the easiest thing to do. And let us not forget this, that in 2015 and in 16, Mr. Fadnavis's government came to the High Court and said that taking the car shed to Kanjurmarg is easy and it can be done, and Aarey needs to be saved. These are words from Fadnavis's government. Suddenly, what changed? Which developer came into the Kanjurmarg land is known to the public. Now we have the documents to say that also. He came out subsequently in 2019, brought out a GR asking for the land to be considered to be given to this developer. So let us not wash dirty linen here. People should know the facts. The fact is that the entire game is being played by real estate sharks, and Mr. Fadnavis only representing them in this entire process. Aarey is not suitable for a metro car shed. This fact has been told by the scientists. Not a single sane person who knows science and ecology will say that destroy a forest when there is a barren option available.
But Mr. Stalin, does using that limited portion of a 1,300 hectare area, will it actually destroy the entire ecology?
No, listen to what is important about this particular piece of land. This piece of land happens to be next to the Mithi River. Setting up of a red category, this metro service center is a red category polluting industry. It cannot come up on the banks of a river. And that is what has been done, that the entire floodplains have gone. Today, Aarey is witnessing flooding for the first time in history because of the floodplains being lost there. Now, we should understand this, that it is not about taking away one part. So let us for an example say you can live without your little finger. Does it mean you chop it off? No. So it is not that way. It is part of that entire forest, and that particular area, because of its proximity to the river, is used by wildlife to come in that area, and the wildlife of that area has been documented. We humans can have the ability to move our desires to another location, but the animals don't have that option. And sacrificing 4,000 trees, that is blasphemous. Why should you do it? When there is an option is what we are saying. If there was no option, we would definitely say that, okay, there is a price to be paid. On one hand, we talk of sustainable development, and when Mr. Uddhav Thackeray came out with a sustainable development model that could be executed, the Union government and Mr. Fadnavis did everything in their power to scuttle it. And today,
Karan Verma,
after taking power, what is the first thing that they have done? They enter into an ego battle.
Karan Verma, your response.
Yeah. Look, it's very easy for us to sit in air-conditioned rooms and say this place is suitable for this project. Why not have this project here when you have an alternate available? Probably you don't have an alternate available. When Devendra Fadnavis says this, and there are many contrary reports to what Mr. Stalin is saying, that Kanjar Marg is not an ideal place for something like this to happen. And if it was, probably it would have happened by now, because it's a project that is meant to benefit all, one and all. It would have not stalled. It would have been a feather in the cap of the government, the previous government itself. So it's very easy for us to comment here that this project is good for this place. Truth of the matter is, if you start analyzing and building up a narrative, you'll come across this fact, Tamanna, that every project somewhere is damaging something in the ecosystem. But you have to weigh the pros and cons. If it's a project that is eventually, as a metro project, eventually helps in reduction of carbon emissions.
So Karan, let me ask you this. Karan, let me ask you this. So one assumes that these pros and cons are weighed, and they're weighed in dispassionate ways, and then a government comes to a policy decision. Now, weighing these pros and cons, the previous government decided that Aarey need not be the place. You have an alternative. Shouldn't that decision be looked at in all its entirety instead of reversing it within hours? Within hours. What does that display to you? That is this an informed decision, or is it based just on a display of power? My prestige over what the people want.
Look,
if there was at least a committee being put into place, if there was, once again a conversation about this, then it was a different matter. A new chief minister has come, Eknath Shinde. He is now the chief minister, right? He has come and he's reversed his decision. But has he put thought into it?
I absolutely agree with you. There should have been more deliberations, and there should have been a committee. Even if it was the mindset of this government that it should be done at Aarey, it should have been backed with proper facts, proper research, and a committee should have been formed. Of course, a process which is consultative in nature is always welcomed. And you're right, this should be a dispassionate call. There is no scope for ego or any sort of, vanity here, because you're doing this project for the people, and it's meant to help the people. But having said that, we cannot have a say of everyone in this consultative process, because some opinions will be informed, others might not be that well informed. It becomes the responsibility of the government then to take everyone on board and put out a white paper that these are the pros and cons of this project. There is no single perfect project in this world, Tamanna. If we start looking for perfect projects,
actually a fair point.
We will never have development.
That's a fair point that Karan has made, Mr. Dayanand, and I'd like you to come in on that, because you made a comment earlier saying that metros don't reduce traffic, but yes, you cannot. But 1 minute, let me finish the question, sir. I know you've lived and breathed this subject, and that's why we've called you on the show, because you know everything about it. But I'm coming on the larger point that infrastructural projects will have some harm to the environment. I mean, the fact is that everything we do as human beings today does harm the environment one way or the other. You have to weigh the costs and see what is the least harm and weigh it in with developmental factors. Are you open to that space? Are you even open to that conversation? Because I see a rigidity on the other side as well.
No, you can't call our stand rigid. If we were rigid, we would have just simply opposed and not given solutions. We gave the solution of Kanjar Marg, which was incidentally and very ironic, very surprisingly, where he has backtracked from it. Mr. Shinde himself has tweeted, has told the press that Kanjurmarg can be used for the Aarey car shed. Now, if it can be used for Metro 6, even today I'm telling the same thing. Mr. Verma also needs to, correctly said, that Kanjurmarg needs to be analyzed. Are we saying that Mr. Fadnavis did not analyze the land before giving it for Metro 6? It is suitable for one metro line, it can't be suitable for the other? No. Now when you extend the line to Kanjurmarg, a person sitting in Kolaba can reach Kanjurmarg. There is no east-west connectivity in any of the metros, which is coming through this project. So by extending it to Kanjurmarg, it was a win-win situation. The land was free, the area was big, there were no trees, there is literally zero ecological damage on the site, and it was a win-win situation. I agree that there is an ecological loss in most of the infrastructure projects, but wherever you can avoid it, shouldn't we make that attempt to try and do that? What is wrong in it? And it is a win-win situation. I'm saying everyone. In fact, we would have been singing praises of Mr. Fadnavis if he reinforced that decision of taking it to Kanjurmarg, which he himself said in 2015. All of a sudden, God knows. Of course, we know. Why is it not in public domain? He should come out. And the hidden fact, let me come to this. It's most crucial that the viewers know this. Mr. Fadnavis keeps telling everyone that he is giving 30 hectares of land for the Aarey metro car shed. The truth is, he has given 65 hectares of forest land to the Metro MMRCL. Why? Who is the beneficiary of that 30 hectares which has been given extra? So there are a lot of things which are being hidden, and that is what we are trying to tell the people, that don't trust what the narrative which is being spread by the IT cell. We need to understand. We are
Mr. Dayanand, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? What is going to be your move now? Because this has gone to court. And then, of course, with a change in government, everything changed.
Yes.
So what will be the move now?
Agreed. See, as a citizen of India, we have two choices. The Constitution casts a responsibility on us to protect the forest, wildlife, rivers of this country. We are doing that. Second option, that can be done through judicial means and by peaceful protests. We will be employing both of this. We have protested peacefully for 8 years. We'll continue our protests on the same lines, and we believe that our protests will yield results, or at least we will not be held guilty by history of not having done enough. The courts are seized of the matter. The Honorable Supreme Court has put a stay order. Without cutting the trees, cutting 2,000 trees inside that plot, the car shed cannot be built. They have to go back to the Supreme Court and say, we want to cut the trees. A lie was said which has come back to haunt them. They said they cut 2,700 trees. We will prove that not more than 300 trees were cut. So now they have to literally wipe out that forest and create a car shed there. That is the challenge for Fadnavis, which he needs to address now.
Okay, Karan Verma, last word to you. How do we ensure that the right decision is made, and not just because someone wants to prove that, yes, now I have the power?
Look, one of the things about setting up any project, and a project of this scale, is flexibility. They might have believed that Kanjurmarg was the right place for this 2 years back. But when you hit the ground, there are so many challenges that one doesn't take into account when on paper. So let's not put someone in a block that you said this 2 years back. So how are you backtracking now?
No, but Karan, what would change in 2 years? The forest is the same. Kanjurmarg is the same. The project is the same. So what changes in 2 years except the government?
Really. When you start analyzing a project and when you start actually implementing it, when you think of actual implementation, there are so many projects. I mean, you look at the Tata Nano project. When they reached Bengal, they started realizing there are lots of different challenges there. They had to relocate to some place.
There were political challenges. You're proving the point I've made. There were political challenges. You know, you've actually hit the nail on the head, Karan, because you've proven the point I've made. That politics in this country should not dictate policy responses in this sense. You decide where the car shed is because of the facts and what makes sense.
Tamanna, let me complete my point. Yes, it's politics. Politics is everywhere because it's the policy. Whether it's land acquisition, whether it's anything, there is a policy part to it. There are local factors to it. How you acquire the land, what difficulties you face, and then midway you realize so many projects, they were set up somewhere, they had to be relocated. So let's not be rigid about it. You make a valid point here that yes, this should be completely divorced from politics. This should be completely divorced from vanity.
I'm saying you come into government. You come into government to make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
The first decision to reverse this and not look at what alternatives were put into place and what were the reasons of that, perhaps has sparked this entire controversy. But at the end of the day,
responsibility of the government to now take everyone on board and put out a white paper as to why they believe it should be set in Aarey. It is their responsibility to satisfy people like Mr. Stalin, who I have respect for.
Mr. Stalin has said that they will be going back to court. So then we'll see where the delays come in there. We'll see where the delays come in there. Well, I'll have to wrap it here. Thank you so much, Stalin Dayanand and Karan Verma, for joining us in this discussion. But, you know, the fact is, it's not just this one project. There are cases upon cases, examples upon examples in India that when a state government changes, a project which has been started by the previous one suddenly takes a U-turn or is suddenly put into cold storage. Imagine what that does to stability and policy making. How does any project reach its fruition if it's held hostage to political changes? Well, moving on.